Okay. We are on the record. Today is October 8th, 2020. This is the 680th regular Arizona Racing Commission meeting being held at 1110 West Washington and in Phoenix, Arizona 85007 and via Google Meets. Because of the COVID-19, there is no in-person attendance. The time is 10 a.m. and I'm Commission Secretary Cassie Goodwin. I will proceed and call the roll. Commissioner Coolidge. He is not present today. Commissioner Garay.
Here.
Commissioner Hover.
Here.
Commissioner Profiter. Commissioner Profiter. Are you having mic problems again? We can't hear you, ma'am.
Can see her mouth moving. Yeah, she's. Yeah, you could.
Well, she's present and here, so we'll let her adjust her equipment, and I will go ahead and turn this meeting over to Chair Garay. And just as a little, you've noticed there was a slide presentation earlier on helping people to unmute their microphones and their devices. So that information is also available online at the racing website. So I hope that you're paying attention. If you need any assistance, please go to the racing website and look that information up. And Chair, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right, just real quick, I see Jana is unmuted. So Jana, could you just do a quick sound check?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can hear you now. All right. Okay, 180th regular meeting of the Arizona Racing Commission. Today, hopefully, is the last day of 100-degree weather here, so it's a big celebration with that. And with that, I will call the meeting to order. All right, the first item on the agenda is item B1 for executive session. I know we did have somebody sign up on these items, but that individual is not currently named in the lawsuits. It's between Monarch Content Management and the Arizona Department of Gaming. So with that said, at this point in time, I'd make a motion for us to go into executive session to meet with our counsel regarding item B1.
I second that.
That was Holly. Ms. Hover?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion and a second to go into executive session on item B1, the Monarch Content Management on the federal lawsuit. And Commissioner Garay?
Yes.
Commissioner Hover?
Yes.
Commissioner Profiter? Commissioner Profiter?
She's muted again.
Thanks. So is that yes for executive session? Thank you. Okay, I have executive session being called at 10:03 a.m. to recess the open session. Commissioners, you know what to do, and I will meet you over in that meeting. Thank you.
Nancy?
Yes, ma'am.
Nancy? Holly, if I could interrupt, could you please send me the link for the executive session? I don't have that readily available.
Yes, ma'am. I will get that over to you shortly.
Thank you so much.
Get it going?
Yes, sir. This is the second open session of the October 8th, 2020, 680th regular Arizona Racing Commission meeting taking place via Google Meets. The time is 10:51 a.m. Commissioner Garay?
All right.
Are
can
you?
you please call roll?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Garay?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Commissioner Hover?
Here.
Commissioner Profiter?
Here.
Thank you. We have our quorum, sir.
All right. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item B2, Monarch Content. I do not believe we need to go into an executive session for that. So if there's any of the other commissioners are okay, we will just skip over that and move on to C1. Hearing no consent or objection to that, we will move on to C, action items, review, discussion, and possible action on. And the first one is number 1, Santa Cruz County Fair Rodeo Association respectfully request Approval of a 3-year race permit for the following dates: April 24th, 25th, May 1st, and 2nd to 2021, April 30th, May 1st, 7th, and 8th, 2022, April 29th, 30th, May 6th, and 7th, 2023. Greg, are you there?
I am here. How's everybody doing today, Chairman Gray?
We're doing well, and hopefully you and your family are doing as best you can.
We are. Thank you very much. Chairman Gray, Commission members, as you know, statute allows for county fairs to petition the Racing Commission for 4-day meetings. Santa Cruz County is one of the longest running county fairs out there. I think last year would have been their 105th year. They were handicapped due to COVID-19. They have petitioned the Commission to have their 3-year permit be renewed for 21, 22, and 23. We have worked with this county a lot. We have been down there for the last 6 years, and although they have a new county fair manager, I've already met with them, find them to be very agreeable to work with. If approved, we will be down there probably in the spring doing some safety inspections, things of that nature. So regarding this permit, we would recommend approval.
Okay. I did have a question when I was looking through it. For the horse and human ambulance, they have it listed as it would be on site from 12:30 p.m. till the end of the race day. Is there morning workouts or anything that go on?
There are morning workouts to go on. We can work with the county on that to expand those hours. But I think what you see there is typically the start of the race day is at 1 o'clock. So the stewards that are down there, and I've been a steward down there in the past, as well as Scott Waterman, we're pretty on top of it as far as not only the horse ambulance, but also the human ambulance as well. Nothing will go on until we know those are in place.
Okay, that just caught my eye. I wanted to make sure we had those things in place when there would be workouts going on.
Yes.
All right. That was the only questions I have. I don't know if the other commissioners had anything regarding this item. Okay, with that, I would move to approve the Santa Cruz County Fair request for a 3-year permit for April 24th, 25th, May 1st, and 2nd, 2021, April 30th, May 1st, 7th, and 8th, 2022, April 29th, 30th, May 6th, and 7th, 2023.
I second that.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve and a second. Commissioner Garay.
I don't think they heard Holly.
Oh yes, this is Holly. I second that motion.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, can you, Madam Secretary, please call roll?
Thank you. Commissioner Garay.
She's muted, I think.
Yeah, Cassie, you're muted.
Oh. Sorry about that. Commissioner Garay.
Yes.
Commissioner Hover.
Yes.
Commissioner Profiter.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries, and Santa Cruz County Fair and Rodeo Association's 3-year race permit has been approved as submitted. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next item is C2, live racing and continued operation of OTBs. And I see we have some people signed up for this, so I will let the public speak regarding this item first. So first person up, Dave Arthur, you there? I see you.
This is Dave Arthur.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Great. It was either going to be myself or Tom Arthur. I may let Tom speak. My first question, though, and maybe you can explain, Chairman Gorey, what exactly is this topic, and what is the proposed action behind it? We weren't really clear, and we don't want to go off on some tangent talking about something that really isn't behind the purpose of that topic.
My belief on this, and I was also one that asked for this to be on and also asked for further information, is can the permittees continue operating OTBs without offering a live product? and I wanted to know what the statutes say for us regarding this going forward.
Okay, I didn't know exactly what this is about. I didn't do any research on what the statutes say. To the extent, however, that this deals with Arizona Downs, Arizona Downs was forced to cancel its summer meet as a result of COVID, but is prepared to run its meet again next May. And in order to finance that meet and in order to have a good meet next year, we need to continue the OTB operation. I don't know what else to say, except that if that was the purpose of that particular section, we absolutely agree with the Horsemen or anyone else that says you can't just have a OTB system and in perpetuity just never get around to racing. But that's certainly not what our condition was. We were banned from opening it up there in Prescott Valley, and are prepared to go forward with our regular race day that we applied for back in 2018. Now, if for some reason there's a gap because of availability of time, if, for instance,
and you've got 30 seconds.
If Turf Paradise is unable to run or somebody else is unable to run, we'd be glad to meet with you and the Horsemen to talk about filling some gaps. But at this point, we're ready to go in May, and we're ready to but we need to have the OTB income in the interim. Thank you.
Thank you. And so you said Tom is not going to speak, correct?
I don't know, Tom.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Just provide a little bit more background on that, but briefly.
Jose Silva, could you please meet? Thank you. All right.
As Dave said, Arizona Downs is ready. We're prepared to announce and follow the commission for our traditional race week in summer. So, we're also willing to run prior to those dates if dates are available. And that's also subject to what we're doing with the HBCA, and specifically some of the conditions that we gave them in a letter we gave them September 9th. However, this is where we might need some clarification. Any earlier running would be during the time period that Turf Paradise has in their permit. And we're not, if you will, any dates from Turf. But again, if they're not going to run, we feel like the permittees, all the people could, that rely on this industry to see what we can do. So it just a little background. Back in August, Turf announced that they were canceling their meet. So we sat down and we said, maybe we ought to try to run. And then we hustled around and we were starting to put together the information. And then shortly thereafter, Turf announced that they were going to run after all. So we kind of stood down because, again, that time period is reserved for their meet. So, and we're under the impression that the letter sent out on August 25th is they're going to run 84 days starting on January 1. And they have submitted that to you guys, and that would be on the agenda for approval today. I don't see anything on the agenda that says that, so I don't know if they're going to run or not. I mean, that was good news for us. I think good news for the Horsemen. But I don't know if they filed for dates or not. So, and we understand the challenges now with this environment.
And 15 seconds, Tom.
But this on again, off again stuff is tough. I mean, we could maybe fill a gap. But when we start considering it, we lose our window because it's Turf period. So, alternatively, the commission elected to suspend Turf permit and allow us to race. But, we're not trying to get in a fight with anybody. We just think either they or us needs to put feet on.
Tom, your time is up. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thanks.
And Next one is signed up for C2, Paul Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Paul.
Members of the Commission, Mr. Chairman, my name is Paul Johnson. I'm an attorney at Jennings, Strauss & Salmon, and I represent Turf Paradise. And I wanted to speak on this subject because I think the Commission can invoke the emergency clause to allow OTBs to continue running even if there's not live racing because of the pandemic. And just a little bit of background, Turf began its race meet in October of 2019 and completed about 5.5 months of that race meet out of a planned 7 months. But then the COVID-19 pandemic arrived and Governor Ducey declared a state of emergency in Arizona effective March 11th, 2020. Turf then shut down its race meet on March 14th, 2020, 3 days after the emergency was declared. In considering the COVID situation and the state of emergency and the degree of the pandemic, that declared state of emergency is still in place at this time. But as has been mentioned, Turf is planning to have a race meet from January 2nd, 2021 through May 1st, 2021. If the COVID-19 situation allows and appropriate arrangements can be made with the HBPA and others to allow that meet. And so we think it's a good idea to allow the OTBs to continue because the OTB money helps support purses for live racing. It helps support the Horsemen, the HBPA, Turf, and others. And given the foregoing and the emergency clause, there is good cause for the Commission to grant an exception to the minimum number of racing days to allow Turf and all permittees to keep their OTBs open and operating. And that emergency clause is in 5112E. And it says, in an emergency and on a showing of good cause by a permittee, the Commission may grant an exception to the minimum day requirements of subsection C and D of this section. And we would ask the Commission to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Kelsey, are you there?
Mr. Commissioner, it's Kelsey Lundy. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, fellow commissioners, and staff. For the record, my name is Kelsey Lundy with Compass Strategies, and I am representing Turf Paradise. I will not repeat some of the comments made by Paul, but again, I would strongly encourage the Commission to allow for as much flexibility for the permittees as possible, considering that we are under not a state declaration of emergency, but a federal declaration of emergency, and have been under a World Health Organization declared public health emergency since January 30th of 2020. Obviously the pandemic has not just impacted the horse racing industry, but if you all remember, both Major League Baseball canceled spring training and the National Basketball Association suspended their season 2 days before Turf closed down on March 12th. The Commission does have the authority to grant an emergency stay on the minimum race days. Turf is planning on running a live meet, should that be allowed. But again, because the OTBs do provide a significant revenue stream for both the tracks and the horsemen's purses, those need to be able to continue their operations through the lifting of those declaration of emergencies so that they have the consistent revenue so that they can race live. And let's be honest, the federal government just extended the national declaration of emergency through January 20th of 2021. And I would suspect that we will be under a national declaration of emergency and a state declaration of emergency until a vaccine is widely available. And so the Commission really, in the best interest of horse racing, needs to allow for an exception to the minimum race day requirements for all tracks because the definition of an emergency is a worldwide pandemic. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. I don't have any questions. And that was the last to sign up for this. I don't know if the department, Greg, or anyone, did you have, were you able to do any research regarding this item? And I believe the department has been working on protocol going forward, and just maybe a status of where we might be with that protocol.
I'll address that. This is the director. Mr. Chairman, I asked Kelly Wagner, the Assistant AG, to provide the Commission with feedback regarding your request for information, whether permittee can be allowed to operate OTBs without running live races, and I believe Kelly is prepared to address that for you. Follow up on your question with the COVID protocols. We have a draft before us. We're doing edits right now, and once we get those edits done, that will be forwarded over to the Department of Health Services for their review.
All right, thank you, and I do appreciate the work you guys have put into working on that protocol. I know it's time-consuming, but much appreciated, everyone involved there at the department. Kelly?
Yes, Commissioner. I did do research and provide an opinion concerning live racing and additional wagering facilities. I would note that my research did not take into account and did not explore the issue concerning COVID and the statute that was brought up, 5112 subparagraph E. Certainly, if that's something that the Commission would like to expand upon, I can certainly provide legal advice going forward on that to some degree. But as far as simply what the statutes say concerning live racing as set forth in a permittee's permit and additional wagering facilities, it is my opinion that the statutes say that a permittee must conduct live racing as per the terms of their permit to operate additional wagering facilities to receive simulcast signals for the purpose of parimutuel wagering.
All right, thank you. I do think I personally would like to have you look into a little bit on that 5112 E, the emergency clause on there. I mean, obviously, we're not dealing with normal times right now. I don't believe this is an act of God. I think this is more of an act of death on a hostess Twinkie, but we're not dealing with normal times right now. So I do think looking at that item and seeing if that is something that is relevant to these times would be useful for us to hear at maybe the next meeting.
Certainly, and would you like to place that on the agenda for further discussion and potential action?
Yes, please. All right.
Commissioner Gorey, this is Kelsey Mundy. Can I have just a few seconds to make a follow-up statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to point out, I appreciate, Chairman Gorey, you're asking to further look into ARS 5-112E, but that statute specifically speaks to an emergency, which we are in right now, and specifically speaks to subsection C and D, which are the statutes that have the race day requirements in them. So I would agree with your comment that we are in an emergency, as stated both by the federal government and the state government, and that certainly my opinion is that the Commission does have the authority under 5-112E to waive or adjust the required race day requirements. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Is there any comments from fellow commissioners regarding this?
Yes, Commissioner Gray, this is Holly Hofer again. And I do have a question for the representative of Turf Paradise, if I could go ahead with that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my question to you, ma'am, is your facility up to speed? Can you give us some sort of pledge or some sort of proof that you are prepared for the safe execution of racing should our international emergency subside, allowing us to go forward with live racing. I think I have a big concern with your facility and the availability for the safe execution of the housing of the horses for the business in general. And so I was wondering if you could, for a minute, just give us some sort of acknowledgement that you are indeed ready to go forward with racing with the dates that you suggested.
Commissioner Gorey, Commissioner Hover, again, this is Kelsey Lundy. Yes, my understanding is that as Turf Paradise works with the HBPA in working out an agreement for live racing, which we would propose, once those agreements are in place, to start on January 2nd of 2021 and go through May 1st of 2021. If Vincent Francia is on the phone, he can probably speak specifically to that, but we are under a time crunch in trying to get this agreement together because there are preparations that need to be made. But rest assured, if Turf Paradise is going to run a live race meet, not only is the facility going to be safe for the horses and for those that are in the back barn area, as it always is, but obviously we will also be doing safety precautions as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Which again goes to the earlier comment about the OTBs, is that is going to be a fairly high financial undertaking to ensure that we can put those precautions in place. And so there are two things that need to happen, and that is that Turf has to have daily direct access to the purse money in order to pay out purses during the race. And then we need to have the surety that we will continue to get revenues in from our OTB network in order to fund a successful and safe race meet. Vincent, I don't know if you have any additional comments on specifics.
Chairman Gorey, this is Vincent. If I may have the floor for a minute. Chairman Gorey, do you hear?
I'm sorry, I was muted. Yes, I recognize you.
Okay, thank you. The meet is scheduled to go from January 2 to May the 1st. Everything that has to be done in order to get the racetrack ready for the race meet will be done. I know exactly what has to be done and the timelines. We are looking at it this year because we have the extra added challenge. Opening a race meet, this is not the first time I've opened a race meet. So we have everything to do with the race meet. That is getting the stables ready, the main track, the turf course, everything that I know that needs to be done and can be done by the deadline. My deadline is December 2nd because that's when the horses come in a month before. The second tent or umbrella is everything to do with our for everybody, but we at least have some work that's been done by other racetracks, and I've been seeing how they've been doing it and got their information, because that's very much a component in keeping everybody safe when we open the race meet. But the primary question is, can we be ready? Yes, I know exactly what has to be done, and I have the staff here to get it done before the horses get here on December 2nd.
Let me ask you this question, because I know I've seen it that a lot of people have been saying a lot of the equipment has been sold off. Is that any impact on your ability to open up a safe racetrack in a facility?
No impact whatsoever. That equipment has nothing to do with the essential equipment we need to run a race meet. And what might that be? Some of the examples are tractors, or harrows, or water trucks, or ambulances. All that is on site here at Turf. None of the essential equipment has been sold. So, you know, Mr. Chairman, Turf did submit for dates. And the reason why I'm saying that is I know there's a lot of people on this call listening, a lot of horsemen. And it was to run 84 days, January 2 through May the 1st, 2021. The reason why it did not become before the commission for approval, Mr. Casillas could address it more. Mr. Casillas has put in a lot of time and hard work with Mr. Hutton and Mr. Sims. as they have dialogue back and forth to have an agreement and understanding about certain things, and that's why the request has not come before the commission yet. But Mr. Casillas can address that further. But the three gentlemen I just mentioned, they're all putting in quality time to get some points of agreement done so that this race meet can happen, and so that we can get horsemen here and get monies into their coffers so they can continue with their livelihoods. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Rudy, I don't know if you had anything to put on there, but I would also add that, yes, I did see the dates come before us to be put on the agenda. I agreed with not having them on today's agenda, as don't want them on the agenda until we know we have an agreement between you and the HBPA. Then that way we know we're approving something that everyone's finally in agreement on.
Mr. Chairman, just to address that matter, I've been in communication with Mr. Sims and Mr. Hutton almost on a daily basis, numerous times per day. We're very close to working out all terms of agreement. We will probably continue our discussions after this commission meeting to try to finalize the last few minor things that are sticking points, but we've made a lot of progress, and I'm quite confident that we can get this completed.
All right, thank you. And yeah, I do know you've been putting a lot of work. I want to thank you for your effort there dealing with this almost daily, and I want to thank Mr. Hutton and Mr. Sims for also communicating with you and each other regarding this, and hopefully getting us eventually a season up and running for the horsemen here in Arizona. Is there anything further regarding item 2? All right. We will now, if hearing nothing further discussed on that, we will move on to item C3, simulcast agreements pursuant to ARS 5-112U. The first one is Arizona Downs A, Monarch number 1, Monarch Content Management LLC. The commission may go into executive session if we so choose to at a point. Let me just double check to see. I know I have people scheduled for this. We are C. Mr. Arthur, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We had, with regard to this question and the proposal to have us approve the Monarch contract, we had retained counsel Corey Langhoffer to write a letter to the commission. Did you get a copy of that letter?
I've got the one you or your brother sent. I've got this one. It was in an email the other day.
October 1, 2020. In any event, I'd like Mr. Langhoffer to present before me, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
He's on the list.
Okay. Corey, I just saw you. There you are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We sent a letter over on October 2nd, and I'll be happy to resend that if you don't have a copy of it in front of you. The issue here is that Monarch Content Management has sent a proposed contract to Arizona Downs that provides that the winnings for OTB participants for Arizona Downs sites will be limited to just a pool of funds from other Arizona Downs OTB sites. And that provision is unusual. As you undoubtedly know, customarily that pool is nationwide, not limited to just the sites operated by one track. And it's going to have a very profound effect on the commercial viability of those sites. It is our understanding that the contract offered by Monarch to Turf Paradise has the customary clause, not the unique one that's biased against Arizona Downs. So this is the sort of situation that House Bill 2547 was designed to avoid. That bill requires you to approve agreements that are reasonable and that are not anti-competitive. Our view is that when Monarch Content Management gives a commercially reasonable term to Turf Paradise and commercially unreasonable to Arizona Downs, those offers are unreasonable and they are anti-competitive. It's designed to damage us at the expense or benefit Turf Paradise at the expense of Arizona Downs. All this is spelled out in our letter, which I'll happily send back to you. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those now.
Well, my first question is, I was looking at in our packet that was sent over to you guys from Monarch. It does not look to be signed by any of the parties. So are we even looking at an agreement contract right now?
No, you're correct. It has not been approved by my client and won't be approved because it's unreasonable. Our concern is really that if in a moment you have the contract for Turf Paradise in front of you and you're asked to approve that, I think that would be the wrong result, because as long as Monarch is offering disparate contracts to the two tracks here intentionally, we can't say that those contracts are reasonable. So we would urge you to require Monarch to have a standard clause across all the operators in the state, or not approve the contracts that they're offering.
I actually do have another question, but I'll let see if any of the commissioners have questions before I speak again. Okay, hearing none. Is there any other states that maybe Monarch offers the signals to where they're offering the commingle to one track and not to another track?
I am not aware of that, but we also haven't looked at that. I suspect what we would find if we look into this is that most of those contracts are not matters of public record, so the answer won't be knowable or learnable by us. But to my knowledge, there's no such arrangement.
Okay. Now, when I was, of course, on the commission when your clients came before us wanting us to force Monarch to give them the signal, and we kept telling them you need to go write a bill, which they did. They went and got a bill written and got the bill passed and the governor to sign it. My question is, there was nothing discussed about the pools in that thing when the bill was written. And to me, it would seem that this would be an obvious that this could come up as an issue, and why was not the pools added into HB 2547?
Well, our position is that it was included through the requirement that you approve reasonable and agreements that are reasonable and not anti-competitive. And so, in our view, you can't approve the Turf Paradise contract because in the context of these offers being made by Monarch, it is unreasonable and anti-competitive.
Okay. And I just want to jump in. I have been asked if we are seeing the comments from people in the meeting. They pop up so quickly that I don't see them, so no, we'll not be addressing the comments that are popping up and then disappearing from my screen quickly, unless somebody else is seeing, and one of the other commissioners is able to see them and they're staying up, but they don't stay up for me. They just pop up so quickly and then disappear. Holly or Jenna, if you had anything further on this?
No.
I mean, to me, I'm kind of looking at this, and with this being on today's agenda, this is almost an item I would actually like to table and put it off to the next meeting for a hearing, so all sides could give us proper presentations and whether we agree on 50 pages or 100 pages of their briefs, and then have some actual briefs regarding this issue on the next agenda. I don't know what my fellow commissioners' thoughts are on that.
Chairman Gray, I'm having trouble with your audio. It's very delayed, so I'm not sure I'm getting everything that you're saying. I'm not sure if anyone else is having that issue.
Okay. My thought on this, hopefully you can hear me now, Holly. I would like to hear more regarding this issue. Obviously, on the face value, this looks to be unreasonable, but I also want to know dig a little more into the arguments regarding this issue. So I personally would like to table it and put it up for the next meeting as a hearing and give all the parties involved an opportunity to submit briefings on this.
I agree.
And actually, with that, I would look at both. Okay, there we go. I would look at also the next item, B, for the Turf Paradise. Have both of them on this. I know I'm seeing some head shaking, but this is a very important matter that I want to give everyone the proper opportunity to brief us on this and make their proper arguments. And I would actually also like to hear from Monarch themselves regarding this, if that was possible. So I would, at this time, move to table items 3A and B to the next meeting so that we can have hearings regarding this item. Okay, I lost Cassie. I don't see her.
Nope, I'm here. Sorry. So I have a motion by Chair Garay to move items C3A and C3B over to the next meeting as a formal hearing before the commission. And I'm sorry, was that Ms. Hover who seconded?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So, Mr. Garay?
Yes.
Excuse me, Ms. Hover?
Yes.
Ms. Profiter?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. And to add on to that, Chair Garay would also like Monarch to be involved in this. And I had heard some reference to having people brief this. Did you want that done? And if so, was there any stipulations on the briefs?
I'd like to keep the briefings at 25 pages if possible. Please understand that we've got to read through each one of these, and I would like them before us at least within a week, so we have plenty of time to review these.
Mr. Chairman, is that a week before the next meeting or a week from today?
A week before the next meeting, giving us a week to review those.
I'm sorry, just for clarification, so having it in a week before the next meeting would put it at all briefs submitted by noon on the 5th of November, and they would be submitted to me as the Commission Secretary, and digital would be preferred to my email of cgoodwin@azgaming.gov. Is that an agreement, sir?
Yes, ma'am, that is an agreement, and oral arguments will be kept at 15 minutes. They can choose how they want to split that up. So did you hear me on that, Cassie?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, excellent. All right, does anyone need a break?
Rory, this is Jerry Sims. Can I make one comment? Can I be heard?
Sure, Mr. Sims.
I think because you heard of the Council for Arizona Downs, and we're still going to table it, I understand, and we're going to brief it. I think it's only fair to let Paul speak to this in a short period of time, several minutes, that the other side had, so that people aren't left with an opinion that they heard, only heard one side and didn't hear a little bit of the other side, in all fairness.
Okay, I will. Paul, are you there?
I'm here, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Yeah, I'll proceed. First of all, Mr. Chairman, you're correct that 5112U does not contain any language that requires a party sending a simulcast signal into Arizona to allow entrance into commingled betting pools. The statute only requires that the simulcast signal provider offer the signal to all permittees, and we understand Monarch has done that. This statute has also been recently interpreted by the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and I just want to read a brief excerpt from that opinion. The Ninth Circuit ruled the plaintiffs cite their agreement to make common business decisions and assert that ARS 5112U requires Monarch to provide access to wagering on Laurel Park's, that was the track involved there, races without Laurel Park's consent. It does not. The Arizona statute simply requires Monarch to offer, open quote, any simulcast of live racing, close quote, to each live racing permittee and OTB in the state if it offers that simulcast to anyone in Arizona. It says nothing about providing access to the pari-mutuel betting pools for Laurel Park races. And this was in a case reported at 971 F3rd 1021. And we will elaborate on that in our briefing. In addition, I think there's a problem with the Interstate Horse Racing Act, Section 3004A1, because for an interstate wager to be legal, the out-of-state Horse Racing Association, meaning the out-of-state track where the race takes place, must consent. And if the consent is absent, rulings require Monarch to offer entrance into commingled betting pools without its consent, because Monarch owns several out-of-state racetracks, would be a decision that would put the Commission in conflict with the Interstate Horse Racing Act and, of course, the federal law controlled under the Supremacy Clause. The arguments about anti-competitive and deceptive, in the statute itself, though anti-competitive and deceptive is limited to issues dealing with rates, as shown by 5112U1 through 3, and we don't think it would be reasonable for the Commission to go beyond the law as written. Arizona Downs wants to expand the law beyond its language, and we don't think that would be reasonable. So we'll elaborate on these things in our brief, but thank you for the time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sir, you're muted.
I attend enough meetings, you'd think I'd figure this out by now. Both for Corey and Paul, in your brief, we obviously do have copies of the statutes and the IHA, but when you're referring to something, just make sure you refer to which paragraph or whatever, so that when we can then look them up in there. And that is something I would like to hear. What authority do we have to force another state track to allow one of us to force gambling on their wagering, or wagering on their signal?
Chairman Gray, you had asked for some input from Monarch. This is Scott Claus at Dickinson Wright Law. I'm at the meeting on behalf of Monarch, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have and provide a 30-second overview of what we've provided for Arizona Downs, Turf Paradise, and Toledo Park.
Sure, yes, Scott. And would you also be able to submit a brief on behalf of your client for the next meeting?
Chairman Gray, yes, we will. Thank you.
Okay. And yes, I'll give you some time to speak.
Thank you very much. So you've heard a couple of things that simply are not correct, and I've seen some comments come up that simply aren't correct. One, the contracts that have been tendered to Arizona Downs, Turf Paradise, and Riedo Park are identical with respect to the audio-visual signals and transmission of simulcast as defined by Arizona law that will come into Arizona and be provided by Monarch. The only difference between those contracts has nothing to do with simulcasting. Therefore, the only difference in those contracts is not within the ambit of ARS 5-112U. Chairman Garay, you made a comment about reasonableness. Both your counsel in the district court and I believe the commission itself has recognized that it would be unreasonable to force Monarch to contract with a party that has defaulted on its contract on numerous occasions. And that is the position that Monarch is in with respect to Arizona Downs. The commission has been apprised of the numerous monetary defaults. It is unreasonable to force Monarch to enter into a contract with a party that has repeatedly and serially defaulted. And again, the wagering aspect of, I agree with Mr. Johnson, that the wagering aspect of these transactions is not subsumed within ARS 5-112U, and I have a dog that will probably bark in a second, so I appreciate that. Within 5-112U, and the wagering aspect, the interstate wagering aspect, is wholly preempted, as the Ninth Circuit has recognized, by the Interstate Horse Racing Act. And I'm happy to both provide briefing and to answer any questions you may have.
All right. No, I definitely appreciate this. I just feel this is a very important topic, and I want to make sure we get it right and that we hear from all the parties and get a proper briefing before making a decision, and that's why I moved to table this to the next meeting.
Chairman Gordon, can I at least respond to the allegation that we're in default? This is Dave Arthur.
Actually, I would like to move on since we've already have tabled this and are ready to move on to the next item. So I would just save that for the when we have the hearing next meeting, if that's okay.
Chairman Gray.
Who is that?
This is Representative Cook.
Yes, sir.
I want to say that I think you guys have done a good job here. I've enjoyed listening to this meeting. I think you all know that racing is dear to my heart. I would like to see the horsemen and the tracks all successful. But I did enjoy hearing the commentary and the legal aspects of what the statutes that the legislature and the governor made into law. And I want to say that I am interested in learning more about that, and that I will probably be contacting your office at the first of next week.
All right, thank you, sir.
But thank you for all your time and what you're doing.
Yes, thank you. And I know I've just seen a few comments pop up, and I know there might be some people upset that we're tabling and this is moving it on to the next meeting, but this is a very important topic. We do want to see racing succeed here in Arizona. And I believe in order to do that, we need to have this as a hearing and give all sides ample opportunity to present their case so that this commission, and hopefully at that meeting we'll have our fourth commissioner here with us as well, can make an appropriate decision on that.
I appreciate that, and I want to say that I think you are doing what you believe is right, you and the commissioners, and the questions that have been brought up here, I want to find out on the legislative side myself just exactly what was passed into law and what is available. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Moving on to, now I forget where I put, there it is. Item 4, simulcast horse racing import signals pursuant to IHA section 3004A3.
Commissioner Garay, this is Kelly Wagner.
Yes.
I just wanted to point out, I know that there was issues concerning the Breeders' Cup. The agenda that has been posted also includes the Breeders' Cup as an agenda item. It should probably be addressed by the commission so that you can keep with the items that were posted for public consumption.
Yeah, correct. My understanding is we didn't have all the paperwork yet for the Breeders' Cup, correct?
Thank you, Ms. Wagner, and that is correct, sir. We did not have all the paperwork in hand, and my understanding is there is a request to potentially have a special meeting later in the month, but obviously before the race begins, in order to see if we can get the paperwork in and then to have a vote on whether or not that signal can be broadcast in Arizona.
Right, so for the Breeders' Cup, for A, Arizona Downs 2, and B, Turf Paradise 2, Breeders' Cup will be at the special meeting, I think, which is tentatively scheduled
the end of
next week?
No, sir. The 29th or the 30th of October, whatever I can do
That's
to
right.
get a quorum.
Okay. So, Kelly, do we need to do anything else regarding that, or just state, or do I need to make a motion tabling those to the special meeting?
I think a motion would probably be proper, just to indicate that that will be discussed at a later meeting.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. At this time, I move to table items 3A, 2, the Breeders' Cup, and 3B, 2, the Breeders' Cup, to the special meeting that is tentatively scheduled for the end of the month.
I second it.
Thank you, Ms. Profiter. So I have a motion to table items 3A2, 3B2 on the Breeders' Cup to the proposed special meeting at the end of the month, either the 29th or the 30th of October, when we can get a quorum. And I'm going to do the roll on this. Commissioner Garay?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Hover? Thank you. Commissioner Profiter?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries for both those items. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so the next item is 4, simulcast horse racing import signals pursuant to IHA, Section 3004, A, Arizona Downs. The first one is Aqueduct. Their race date, season 11/6/2020 through 12/6/2020. I'm just trying to go back now and catch up to the paperwork here. Why did I go to Okay, got Santa Cruz. Oh, those are. Okay, Greg, I'm not seeing Aqueduct.
You should have an Aqueduct in there. It's an IRIS signal, so Arizona Downs has asked for that signal. It's being offered to each committee as well as their OTV networks.
All right, so it's meeting all the requirements as per IHA section?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any questions, comments from fellow commissioners regarding this? All right, with that,
I have a curiosity question.
Yes.
Just clarification, if we're approving simulcasts, then they're automatically approving the wagering. Simulcast and the wagering are going together. When you say simulcast, you mean wagering, right?
Correct.
Okay. Just making sure I have the same vocabulary.
All right, is there any other further questions, comments regarding?
And Commissioner Gray, this is Kelly Wagner again. I apologize for the interruption. If the commission wants to use a large, one big vote on the signals that there are no issues for, the commission can certainly do that. Obviously, there are signals on here that contracts are not before the commission, so the commission can certainly take that into account if the commission wanted to do one large vote instead of individual.
All right, so one by one and then look at doing a vote. All right, so we have everything proper for the Aqueduct 11/6/2020 through 12/6/2020 season. I'm guessing my stuff got out of order here. Greg, the Breeders' Cup we've put off to the next meeting, so we will skip over A2. The next one would be Mahoney Valley 10/23/2020 through 12/30/2020.
Yes, in regard to Commissioner Gray, members of the commission, regarding Mahoney Valley, Arizona Downs has turned in all the proper paperwork, including out-of-state commission approval, as well as horseman approval, and they do have the AZ HVPA approval as well. So.
Okay. Then the next one would be Churchill Downs, 10/25/2020 through 11/29/2020.
Yes, Commissioner Gray, members of the Commission, Arizona Downs has submitted the paperwork. This is for the Churchill Downs Fall Meet, which runs through the end of November, and everything is in order, including ACHPPA approval.
Okay. The next one would be 5 Del Mar, 10/31/2020 through 11/29/2020. I'm guessing there's an issue with that one.
Those are the Monarch affiliated signals. The next 3 or 4 or 5 will be all Monarch affiliated.
That includes Del Mar, Golden State, Gulfstream, Park West, Los Alamitos.
That's correct. Monmouth, Santa Anita, and Laurel.
Okay, so Monmouth, or however you say that, that's also Monarch?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so then the only ones for technically approving right now would be Aqueduct, Churchill Downs.
That would be up.
All right. Is there any questions, comments from the commission members regarding Aqueduct, Mahoning, or Churchill Downs? Yeah. Okay.
Sir, Mr. Johnson has requested to speak.
All right, Dave.
Hi, thank you very much, Commissioner, Chairman. I would just like clarification on the Los Alamitos signal, because Los Alamitos Quarter Horse does not fall under the Monarch agreement, but the Los Alamitos Quarter Horse contract had already been approved, so I just wanted to get clarification on that.
Commissioner Gray, as the commissioners, Dave Johnson is correct. The Quarter Horse for Los Alamitos is not a Monarch affiliated signal. It's a thoroughbred signal that is.
Okay.
So that is an error on our part. That was approved for the year, and it's typically approved through about the time of late December is when we approve it for the entire year.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thank you for pointing that out to us. Any questions from fellow commissioners regarding Aqueduct, Mahoning Valley, Churchill Downs, and or Los Alamitos Quarter Horse? Okay, hearing none, I move to approve for Arizona Downs pursuant to IHA Section 3004A3, Aqueduct, their season 11/6/2020 through 12/6/2020, Mahoning Valley 10/23/2020 through 12/30/2020, Churchill Downs 10/25/2020 to 11/29/2020, and Alamitos Course 10/1/2020 through 12/31/2020.
Second that.
Thank you. With the motion and a second, I'll do the roll. Commissioner Garay?
Yes.
Commissioner Hover? Commissioner Profiter?
Yes.
Thank you. The Aqueduct, Mahoning Valley, Churchill Downs, and Los Alamitos Quarter Horse race meets have been approved. And that was for Arizona Downs.
All right, thank you. The next one would be item 4, simulcast horse racing import signals pursuant to IHA Section 3004A3. B, Turf Paradise, and I believe we would have the same on these for the Breeders' Cup. We will be discussing that at the special meeting at the end of the month. And then, of course, Del Mar, Golden Gate, Gulfstream, Park West, 607, Monmouth, Santa Anita, and Laurel Park are all regarding the Monarch signal, so we will have to take those up at a later time. And so the first one to talk about would be number 1, Aqueduct, their signal for season 11/6/2020 through 12/6/2020. Greg, everything in order with that?
Yes, Turf Paradise has requested this simulcast signal, and all paperwork is in order.
All right. Next one would be number 3, Mahoning Valley, 10/23/2020 through 12/30/2020. Everything in order with that as well?
Yes, the Turf Paradise requested it, and everything's in order, including Out-of-State Commission, Out-of-State Horsemen, and the AZHBPA.
Okay, thank you. Next one would be Churchill Downs, 10/25/2020 through 11/29/2020.
Yes, everything's in order, and it's been requested by Turf Paradise, so they have all the approvals in order.
Right. Then number 8, Los Alamitos Quarter Horse, 10/1/2020 through 12/31/2020.
Yeah, again, that should be, the quarter horse was approved back in January. That should have been the thoroughbred meet, which is in December, but everything's in order for that request.
All right, thank you. Any comments, questions from fellow commissioners regarding these items? Hearing none, I would move to approve item 4, simulcast horse racing import signal pursuant to IHA section 3004A3 for B, Turf Paradise. Number 1, Aqueduct, 11/6/2020 through 12/6/2020. Mahoning Valley, 10/23/2020 through 12/30/2020. Churchill Downs, 10/25/2020 through 11/29/2020. And Los Alamitos Quarter Horse, 10/1/2020 through 12/31/2020.
I second that.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Garay?
Yes.
Commissioner Hover? Commissioner Profiter?
Yes.
Thank you. That has been approved then for Aqueduct, Mahoning Valley, Churchill Downs, and Los Alamitos Quarter Horse for Turf Paradise.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to item D, discussion items. Number 1 is duration of horsemen's approvals for simulcast signals in accordance with IHA. I forget who requested this on this agenda, but we do have some people that have signed up for this item. I will start with Paul Johnson from Turf Paradise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I believe Turf Paradise put this on the agenda, and the issue is the duration of the required approval. And we look at Regulation R19-2-419C4 as the horseman only giving the initial approval, and then once the initial approval is given, there's no need for the horseman's approval for subsequent meets or signals. We base this on the wording of the regulation, and in accordance with Section 3004A1B of the Interstate Horse Racing Act, which should be looked to by analogy, that such approval should not be varied or withdrawn during the course of a regular contract. And because it should not be varied or withdrawn outside of the contractual process between the horseman and the track. And we understand that there are currently negotiations going on concerning contractual negotiations that may touch on that. And so we don't think once initial approval is given, Turf does not believe that subsequent approvals by the horseman are required. And in looking at a couple other subsections of that regulation, subsection E concerns withdrawals of written approvals, and it says that it constitutes grounds for the department to rescind authorization. We believe that's a may provision and not a required provision, and it needs to be read in conjunction with the part of the Interstate Horsemen's Act that I referenced, that that approval should not be varied or withdrawn during except in the course of contractual negotiations between Turf and the horseman. Subsection F of the regulation also applies, we believe it applies to the contract between the out-of-state entity, which would be the horse racing track, because it refers to a contract instead of an approval, and only if there are changes. So subsections E and F really don't come into this, or it comes into it perhaps as a may situation for the commission concerning constituting grounds for withdrawal, it may. But we would again say that because of what the Interstate Horse Racing Act says by analogy, the Commission shouldn't act on that when there's a contract or contractual negotiations going on that may touch us. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but we think that there ought to be a ruling that once the initial approval is given by a horseman, the Horsemen's Association of the HVPA, there doesn't need to be continual approval of each signal or meet.
Obviously, I don't think, this is just a discussion item, so I would ask maybe our legal counsel, Kelly, or department to look into this and maybe give us an opinion regarding that at the next meeting.
I certainly can do that. Do you want to have it moved to put on the agenda for our next meeting under an action item or continued discussion item?
Jenna, Holly, what are your thoughts?
I think we can move forward with an action item.
Okay.
She wants to.
So we'll go and move it to an action item there, Cassie.
Will do, sir. Thank you.
We do have also Dave or Tom Arthur. Both of you signed up for it. Did either of you have anything to add to this? Wanted to speak to it?
This is Dave Austin. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
The answer to that is no. We weren't really sure what this topic was all about, and having heard from Mr. Johnson what it was, we don't have anything to add except for one thing, and that is we missed Buzz Alston. What happened to him? Did Mr. Johnson run him off, or what's going on?
I believe he's on the phone.
All right. Yeah. Well, we don't have anything to add. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. If there's nothing further on D1, I would at this time move to take a quick 10-minute break. This is my third Vente today, and do need to take a 10-minute break. So I move to take a 10-minute break. Do we have a second on that?
I will second that.
All right. Thank you. Madam Secretary, to take roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Garay?
Yes.
Commissioner Hover?
Yes.
Commissioner Profiter?
Yes.
Okay, the time is 11:59, and we will take a 10-minute recess. Thank you.
Please call roll.
Certainly. Okay, we are reconvening from our brief recess. The time is 12:10, and this is Commission Secretary Cassie Goodwin. I'll do roll. Commissioner Garay?
Here.
Commissioner, Hover? Commissioner Hover? She's in, but I show her mic is muted. Commissioner Hover? There you are. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Profiter?
Here.
Okay, we have our quorum, sir. The meeting is back over to you.
All right, thank you. The next item up is E, information reports. Number 1, national legislation, Horse Racing Integrity Act, federal oversight of horse racing. Aiden, are you with us?
I am here, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to take a moment and share my screen, if you will bear with me. Can everyone see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Aiden Fleming with the Arizona Department of Gaming. I'm Assistant Director here overseeing legislative affairs. Today I want to talk to you about the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act of 2020. The legislative session is over in the state of Arizona. However, at the federal level, it is ongoing, and on September 9th, Senator Mitch McConnell had dropped Senate Bill 4547. This is introduced legislation that is new and pertains to horse racing. A co-sponsor is Martha McSally, Senator Gillibrand, and Senator Feinstein out of California. So the bill is interesting and unique in the sense that it has some bipartisan support in both the House and the Senate. A very brief description of the bill. It addresses the integrity and safety of horse racing by requiring uniform safety and performance standards. And this is from a federal perspective, not a state perspective, as we are currently under, which would include horse racing anti-doping and medication control program and the racetrack safety program. That is done in conjunction with an enforcement authority that I will get into more detail on in a moment. SB 4547 has a mirror legislation, and it's 1754. That's House Resolution 1754. And the reason they do this largely is a parliamentary move to make a bill go through the process quicker. So I will say that HR 1754 has already received a vote on the House floor and has been transmitted to the Senate. So these bills are moving very quickly, and even just because it was introduced on September 9th. I have taken the liberty of trying to break this down in a PowerPoint because it's an extremely long bill, and I want to make sure that the key elements are relayed to you properly. A couple of key terms that you should be aware of that they define in the bill are equine constituencies and equine industry representatives. And the reason I bring this up is something to keep in the back of your mind is that state racing commissions are now under, by their definition, a constituency and an industry representative, which is unique since we're more in the regulatory space. But they have put us together in these two descriptions, and you'll see why as I progress through. So the structure of the bill. The Integrity Act creates the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority Board. And this is an NGO. They are a 9-member board. I'll just call them the authority for short. And the authority is set up with a chairman that is not part of the equine constituencies, 4 members that are part of the equine constituencies, and then 5 members that are independent of the racing industry. So a clear majority of an outsider perspective as opposed to an insider horse racing perspective at the authority. Now the authority oversees 3 smaller standing committees: the Anti-Doping and Medication Control Standing Committee, the Racetrack Safety Standing Committee, and the Nominating Standing Committee. And these are standing sub-boards that all lead up to the authority, and they filter up. So obviously each one has different focus. One is on the medication side, one is on the general safety side, and the nominating committee is basically there to ensure that pretty specifically that the makeup of the membership is consistent and that it has a majority of independent folks that are on the boards. Now, all members and directors are subject to conflict of interest provisions. I don't jump into that, but if you're interested in that, I can get into it. So what are they doing and why do they exist? The authority essentially starts with a baseline, and that is the adoption of certain federal or state and, I guess, international standards. And they get these from the International Federation of Horse Racing Authorities, the Association of Racing Commissioners, the World Anti-Doping Agency, international standards for laboratories. Note that they're absent are state regulatory thresholds, and the ARCI model rules are not included as authorities that they're going to be looking at. So if you look at it, the federal government has never had a strong hand with the regulation of horse racing. In a broad sense, this is their first foray into saying the federal government will take over large parts of the regulation of horse racing. That will include taking state commissions and state authorities and centralizing them under what this is considered this board with its sub-boards as the authority. So after they create the baseline of where they're going to start with their rules. They then get into additional rulemaking. And how that will operate is the standing committees will advise the authority of the changes to their purview before a rule can be adopted. They will filter those up to the authority for approval. Once that happens, the authority can then move that on to the Federal Trade Commission. And I want to point out that the standing committee and the authority are not governmental entities. So they're going to create rules and then send it over to a governmental entity, which would be the Federal Trade Commission. And the Federal Trade Commission, they kind of cover themselves with a due process here because there is opportunity for public comment. These other two stages where the rules are actually propagated can be done with limited transparency, and that would be up to those boards. So the transparency will come in on the third step with the Federal Trade Commission. Enforcement. How will an NGO, in cooperation with the federal government, enforce these measures that they're going to adopt? They basically, in the bill, call out specifically the state's anti-doping agency, the United States Anti-Doping Agency, and you may be most familiar with them of the testing of human athletes for the Olympics. The U.S. USADA may decline this request for partnership. If they do, the authority has to go seek a similar contractual relationship with another party. USADA would negotiate its budget, and it would negotiate its scope with the authority, although there are some basic outlined measures of what they will do. USADA or the other contracted party would serve as the independent anti-doping and medication control enforcement organization. Essentially, they are the enforcement arm ensuring compliance of the tracks that are distributed throughout the states at the federal level. So that's, again, this is centralizing a lot of what we do in our own rules in our veterinarian section, et cetera, with medications and so forth. It would be centralizing that at a federal level. So let's talk about the standing committees. What are they actually supposed to be doing? The committee in the statute says it will develop lists of permitted and prohibited medications, methods, and substances for recommendations to and approved by the authority. They will create those lists, and something that they key in on multiple times in the legislation is prohibiting the administration of any prohibited or otherwise permitted substance to a covered horse, which is a horse that will be used in racing, within 48 hours of its next start, effective as of the program date. So they're going to create the list of substances starting from their baseline in cooperation with the enforcement agency. They're going to modify that list, and the goal seemingly would be to prohibit that list's use on a horse 48 hours before the next racing start. It does give an exemption to states within the first 3 years for furosemide to administer it, so there is a grace period there. However, the only reason it coincides with the authority has to convene a study group to study furosemide and deliver its findings within 3 years. And again, if you have any questions during this, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll just keep going and wait for the questions at the end. The other subcommittee, the Racetrack Safety Standing Committee. This committee, it's very broad the way it is set up, but set of training and race calls, again, that could include any number of things, but it specifically calls out the following: the racing surface quality maintenance system, investigations. It talks about programs for injury and fatality data, uniform set of track safety standards. Again, these are all found in our state rules already. However, this subcommittee at the federal level will then be setting these new rules and then propagating them up, and then pushing them up to the authority and then to the FTC. Again, the nominating standing committee, The interesting part was the initial panel. It's done by their incorporating documents of the authority. And as just another reminder, the authority is not a government entity. So the chair has to be selected among the 7 members. The members should be selected thereafter by rules established by the authority. And they do have those. I didn't put them in here. But essentially, the thought, at least from the plain language, is that this is to ensure that a majority of the members are not horse racing constituencies. They are independent members. The interesting part is funding. When you create a new regulatory structure at the federal level, they did include some statements on funding. And I split it into 2 sections, the initial funding and the ongoing funding of this structure. The initial funding, the authority shall seek out loans to underwrite their operations. They can also use, and I'll get to that in the ongoing funding, but they can also use money to pay back those loans from payments from the state. The ongoing, how will they continue to fund this operation? The language basically says the state commissions will receive an estimate once the bill is passed 90 days after their establishment. And the factors are going to be to determine the amount of regulatory costs, the authority's projected costs, the state's number of race days, and other sources of authority revenue. So essentially, the states will be charged to fund this new regulatory scheme. And additionally, I'll get that to my next slide, the permittees and the licensees will as well. That's optional too. So the state has 2 options. It can go with an annual payment structure, similar to the last slide. The authority will set up 90 days after. It will say, here's what it's going to cost for your annual breakdown. If the state agrees to the annual payment, they will remit fees and notify the authority within 60 days. We have to give a 1-year cancellation time period if we choose to opt out of this situation. If the state declines, this will be at least monthly, we will get a bill essentially for their regulatory costs. And it will be paid on a per month basis. Again, the second bullet on the right, additional fees for trainers, owners, breeders, jockeys, racetracks, veterinarian. Second, with the licensing function. All of these folks would then have to be licensed, not necessarily at the state level, but with the federal government. State cooperation. What is the state's role in all of this? And this is more of a policy decision. Obviously, that's something can be discussed if this bill were to pass. But we have 2 options. The state can contract with the authority and carry out basically as local guidance to make sure that the tracks and the licensees, we can act on their behalf, carrying out their rules. The state chooses not to contract with the authority, and but funding will still occur to fund their federal operation. So either way, it is a mandate that the state will pay for this one way or another. Potential impacts on its face. From a budgetary perspective, states, licensees, and permittees may see an increase in cost of regulation from the federal authority. Now, it's very broad. We don't know. There's no specifics in the bill of exactly what the cost will be. Those have to be figured out after the authority determines that. So we could see a potential for that. It's not guaranteed, but it's leaning that way, I suppose you could say. The state will need to determine if they will contract with the authority for local oversight or hand over the regulatory functions. Arizona may be particularly impacted just because of their calculation. They talk about their regulatory costs as per number of live races, and Arizona is a year-round racing state, and I believe we race live when we're outside of COVID more than most states. So that's a point as well. Authority impact. numerous Arizona state statutes, rules, and policies relating to the regulation of horse racing will need to comply with the adopted authority rules. So we would have to take a fresh look at our state statutes, rules, and policies and see what the authority comes up with so we can make sure that, with federal supremacy in place, that we would comply with their rules and regulations. The Arizona Racing Commission and Division Authority will be significantly reduced, I would say, under this. And then additional legislative and legal reviews. I've seen across the country, lots of people are looking at this, and we will always, we will continue to update the Commission on 1754 and 4547 as they go through the process. If the bill were to pass as is, we're looking at an effective date still pretty far out. I believe it would be January 1, 2022, I believe, would be the soonest that the bill could take effect. But the latest Senate action, as I said earlier at the very beginning, it was read twice and referred to committee in the Senate, and in the House version actually passed the vote on the floor with 260 co-sponsors. As I said, it's very bipartisan, and it was transmitted. Similar legislation has come up in years past. A big difference is the majority leader in the Senate sponsoring this legislation. Obviously, Mitch McConnell is from Kentucky, and there seems to be a greater push this year to get something like this passed. And I know that was a lot of information to throw at everyone, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Unmute myself. I mean, it sounds interesting, but I guess I'm still not seeing what the benefit to horse racing, to the safety and welfare of the horse racing. I mean, I'm always a little nervous when DC takes over something. They seem to screw things up and fix them. So that's just my concern regarding this bill, and also the payment. It seems like it's now becoming more of a increase on our members. We'll just call it. It's going to be more of a tax on them to pay for this bill, and less money in their pocket.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the bill is, like I said, it's vague. It requires the authority to kind of sit and make a budget for the upcoming year. I wish I could present you with some actual numbers about what the state could anticipate, but without it passing and then meeting, it's impossible to calculate what they would need to function. Even if they don't get their enforcement authority, if they go to their second choice or third choice, or what their cost would be, there's a lot up in the air right now.
Holly, Jana, did you have anything?
I guess my concern is, my question would be, or my concern would be, is this a stepping stone to animal rights activists getting their hand in on the racing industry, as we've seen in the show horse industry? And I'm not sure what your take on that would be.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I mean, I don't want to speculate. I don't know that. To know that in public testimony and also with folks who have supported the bill, the Humane Society, obviously, and a lot of activists are posting about it in support publicly. I can also say that, I think the medications, when you look at the standing committees and the structure, you can see exactly what their focus is, and a large piece of it is the medication and the application of medication to horses before a race.
I absolutely understand that, coming from a background of showing horses. I just know that in our industry, that's just a foothold in the door of encouraging more outside view from people that really aren't in the horse industry, i.e. the animal rights activists. So I would remain extremely cautious on doing that, instigating.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I have brought this up, obviously, from a budgetary perspective and a policy perspective to obviously the governor's office and others. And so it will be a point of discussion if it does pass. Obviously, we're going to have to meet and make some decisions. But until that, I would be happy to come back and give you regular updates on its progress.
Yeah, I definitely would like to. And I know Leroy would like to speak to this. I think, Leroy, you're going to be, I don't know if you're speaking on for yourself or for the HPPA.
Yeah, Commissioner Gray, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes, Commissioner, Chairman, this is Leroy Guessman. I'm going to speak on this topic as National HPPA President. I just want to say, although there are a few good things in this bill, there's a lot of concerns, and Aiden did an excellent job of explaining it and laying out some of the concerns. But the thing I want to mention, this bill is primarily being put, first of all, the House version there's been a version of this bill for 6 years in the House, and it's never gone anywhere. And then when McConnell teamed up Jockey Club, this thing all of a sudden took off. And anyway, our concerns in the National HPPA, number one, the National HPPA is against this bill because of the LASIX issue, because of the formation of the authority. The authority is made up of 9 members, and they are appointed. They're not elected. They're 9 members, and they can have nothing to do with the horse industry. They can have no experience or be involved anyway in the horse industry. How do you take people that don't know anything about a horse and put them in charge of such an operation is beyond me. As I said, the National HPPA is against it. The American Quarter Horses are against it. The United States Trotter Association is against it. This thing is being ramrodded right now by McConnell. We also are exploring we feel this thing is unconstitutional, just as the ban on sports betting was unconstitutional. We have the same attorneys looking into it. And again, there is a 3-year test on LASIX, and it'd be 3 years before LASIX would be eliminated. But it requires a unanimous vote to allow LASIX by the authority in order for it to pass and not be abolished. And Arizona Racing needs LASIX for their horses. The other key issue, and then I'll wrap up, is the expense of this is going to be a burden on the horsemen. Every start, you're going to be assessed. The tracks are going to be assessed, and the state is going to be assessed to pay for this authority and to oversee this thing on a national basis. And although we feel that as horsemen, the safety of the tracks are important, but there's going to be major concerns with the safety of the racetracks, especially in Arizona. So with that, I'll close. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you, Leroy. And that is kind of my concern looking at it, is that there's this authority that seems to be not really responsible to anyone. And then I'll just say, to me, it's a taxation without representation, and this looks like an end around to eventually put an end to the sport that a lot of people love.
I agree.
Aiden, definitely thank you for the update, and please keep us updated. And actually, if there's something else going on during, you see the bill moving, please feel free to email us so we at least know that there's something going on.
Mr. Chair, yeah, absolutely. I will send out an email to the commissioners if there's any movement.
And Leroy, I know at one point in time 3 years ago, I think one of the bills regarding this, the Arizona HBPA worked with the commission to send a letter to at least the Arizona representatives and senators. So if we need to do something again, please let us know and work with us maybe at the next meeting to get that on the agenda.
Well, the HBPA did just recently send out letters to all senators and to the representatives. But I can send you a copy of that letter that we sent out, and then you'll know what it is, if you like.
Okay. Well, I know you had, I think this was like 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago, the commission also sent a letter to our Arizona senators and representatives. So.
Yes, and we appreciate that. And we also sent something just recently again.
Excuse me.
This is Jerry Sims. Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Isn't Mitch McConnell up for re-election? And I know that McSally is up for re-election. What would be the impact on this bill if McConnell wasn't re-elected?
I can address that. McConnell is trying to get it passed through in the lame duck session before it ends, before his term ends.
If he doesn't, and then he's out, what would be the impact? You know?
Well, then, if they don't get it done in the lame duck session, then the bill dies and it has to start all over.
And is the lame duck? What is the duration of the lame duck session?
From the end of, I don't know the exact date, maybe Aiden does, but I know it starts back up shortly after the election and runs through the end of the year, is my thoughts on it, but Aiden might have definite dates, I don't.
Mr. Chair, I don't have the dates off the top of my head, but yeah, Mr. Yoth is correct. From everything that I've seen that's public is that they want to move the bill through quickly. So we're looking at a matter of most likely months, if not sooner.
And I've requested to have this put on the agenda to discuss about a letter possibly from the commission to our representatives. And Mr. Sims, you'd asked about McSally. My belief is, or my understanding is, if she does not win her election, the person who would be replacing her would be sworn in by November 30th before the end of the lame duck session. So, all right.
Sir,
thank you
excuse me.
again for, yes, ma'am.
Just to be clear, so you want me to put this on the next agenda as a vote for a letter to our senators for opposition to this matter, to this issue?
Letter of senators and representatives of Arizona.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. And would like input from the HBPA and any others to language we should include in our letter to them. All right, thank you. Next item is number 2, budget report. I don't know if Rudy or Jason's given it today.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is Jason LaForest from the division. We just finished our first fiscal quarter of the year, which ended at the end of September. There was no major concerns on how the division's operating with the COVID crisis. I cannot provide exact figures at this moment, so not a VPN issue, but I'd be more than happy to provide actual numbers on the next meeting.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Is there any questions from the fellow commissioners on that? All right, seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on to number 3, committee reports, not to exceed 3 minutes. American Greyhound Racing. I don't know if Aaron, if you're with us today. I saw you on, but I think you left. Didn't see you come back.
Hi, Commissioner Greg. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, I don't have any updates, just a follow-up. Thank you again for including the Dark Day assessment as an action item on last month's agenda. We appreciate your decision to have the department work with the permit holders on this topic. And at this point, I've not had any discussions with the department. However, I do understand there are significantly more urgent and pressing matters that the department is working through. Before next month, I would like to firm this up and just make sure we've made the appropriate payments. I'm hopeful the department will have direction on this topic soon, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a little follow-up on with regards to the jacking of the Greyhounds. I did see the Arkansas Southland and fellow Delaware North Track. They did a great job on suspending some people. So just pass along to your fellow Delaware North folks. Great job done there.
Will do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next one, Arizona Downs. I know Tom or Dave, you're here.
We don't have anything to add to this party.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sue.
County fairs. Rolito. Is there anybody from Rolito here? Not seeing anyone or hearing anyone. Move on to Tucson Greyhound Park. Do not see Alicia. Turf Paradise. I know there's somebody from Turf Paradise here.
Mr. Chairman, I'm still here. Vincent from Turf.
Sure. You have an update?
Yeah, there are two things, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. One is I want to once again thank Mr. Casillas for exemplary leadership and creating the forum for dialogue to take place in order to resolve differences. I'd like to thank Mr. Hutton of the AGHBPA and also the man I work and serve, and that is Mr. Stems, for coming together, dialoguing, and working through differences. And a shout out to the Arizona-based horsemen who have shown incredible patience and a commitment to live racing as we work through this period. And the second thing is, will come as no surprise, I'd like to request a special session as soon as possible once those dates are ready to go before the commission, because I'm running out of time. It's not on my side right now, and would need the dates approved so I can initiate everything that really needs to be done. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gray, you're muted.
I did it again. No, I was just stating that I do believe that if something breaks, Rudy would be working with the Secretary to see what we could do to get approval as quickly as possible. And again, thank you everyone that's working on this to hopefully get something going for our Arizona horsemen. All right, the next one is Optional Industry Stakeholder Association update. So we'll start off with Arizona County Racing Association. And not seeing anyone, hearing anyone. Arizona Quarter Horse Racing Association. All right. Arizona Thoroughbred Breeders Association.
Your mic is live.
That's somebody trying to unmute their phone to talk?
I'm not sure, sir.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know Leroy, you're here for the HBPA, so Leroy?
Yeah, Commissioner Gray, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes, Chairman and Commissioners, staff, this is Leroy Gustman with the Arizona HBPA. I just want to say that President Hutton is currently in negotiations with all permittees right now for the 2021 race meets, and we're hoping soon some things will be resolved, and we want to thank Director Casillas and his efforts in being a mediator in this situation, and hopefully we're close and we get this wrapped up soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Jockeys Guild, I know I see Scott on it. Or Derek.
This is Scott. My hand's muted. I appreciate the time. The one thing I think now we need to move forward as quick as we can if we're going to run a meet. So the horsemen, the jockeys can be prepared to run on January 2nd. I listened to everything that's went on, and if we're going to move forward, it needs to be done quick, or it won't be able to happen.
Definitely appreciate that, Scott, and hopefully you're healing up from your leg injury.
I am. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Boyd. This is Loretta Brazier. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Brazier, you may want to mute your computer.
Loretta, let's go ahead and try that one more time. If you could mute your computer and then unmute your phone, please.
I turned my phone off.
There we go. There we go.
Okay. It was going crazy. I'm so sorry. I tried to come in a while ago when it was my turn, but I really would like to just have a minute and tell you guys how much I appreciate all the love and support and prayers that I got from you guys. From, as you know, while this meeting was going on last month, I was in the hospital with my heart attack. So I want to thank all of you guys for your support and your love and your prayers. And the other thing I want to say is that the quarter horse guys are ready to run. We need racing back. We need live racing back. So anything that can be done to expedite these meetings that are going on, negotiations with Turf Paradise, we're ready to run, and we really need that. And I want my job back, okay?
All right, thank you, Loretta. It's good to see you here with us.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
All right, next one is item F, Commission Report. Summary of current events affecting the Arizona Racing Commission. Only commission members or director may report. I don't know, Rudy, did you have anything other than what's already been said today?
No, sir.
And again, thank you for all the work you're doing on behalf of everyone to try to get something going for our community. Next one would be number 2 item, identification of matters to be placed on future agendas. I know we've already placed several items from today's meeting on future agendas, so I can't think of anything else that needs to be added. I don't know if Polly or Jana had anything. If not, we can move on to the next item, call to the public. And I know we do have a couple of people signed up for just call to the public. And I see Thomas Andra. Hopefully I'm saying that right. You've got you've got the floor. Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thomas Andra. I just wanted to comment on the recent running of the Preakness Stakes. It's quite an exciting race. The filly beat the guys. Probably did horse racing a lot of good. How many of the members of the commission had her on the winning ticket? Yeah, that's what I thought.
I don't gamble.
This mess has now bled into the Triple Crown races. Now, I know you don't like hearing from me, and I'm sorry to be sarcastic, but I do want to make this point that while this spat goes on, it's going on at incredible cost to people in Arizona who love horse racing. That's all.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me, just
Kevin?
as a reminder, sir, I'm sorry, but on call to the public, it is basically their time to speak, but it's not to enter into dialogue with the commissioners. So there's no disrespect intended, but the commission cannot enter into dialogue during call to the public. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next person is Kevin Eichelberry. Kevin, are you there with us?
You may want to come back to him. I don't know if he's still on or not, sir.
Okay. Paul Johnson. Paul may have already left.
I think Paul might have muted himself. If he's...
Mr. Chairman, I'm here. I don't have anything further. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sims?
I just wanted to make one comment, and that dealt with years ago when I first came to Turf Paradise and bought it. We had separate pooling. I just wanted that to be known that we had separate pooling for quite some time. It was there when I got there, and we continued it on for some time. So, and we didn't have nearly as many OTVs back then. But separate pooling is done. I know there was a question about that. Mexico too was to do their own also. So, but we have the Turf Paradise. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin, are you there?
Mr. Garay, I haven't heard from him, but as long as we're in a pause on that, I've got a request that we call the ATBA again up because they were having phone issues earlier, but now I believe they're able to speak.
Okay. ATBA? Are they there?
I'm not sure. I just got a text message asking if we could call them up again.
All right. Arizona Thoroughbred Breeders Association, are you there? All right. Kevin Eichelberry, are you there? Arizona Thoroughbred Breeders Association. All right. You're not getting any further text from them, are you?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, the next one is item H, announcements. The next regular scheduled commission meeting will be at 10 a.m. on Thursday, November 12th, 2020. Most likely it will still be here online. And then there is a possibility that there may be a special meeting in between now and then. But that is the next regular scheduled meeting. With nothing further, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Garay.
Yes.
Commissioner Hover.
Yes.
Commissioner Profiter.
Yes.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded to adjourn. The time is 12:56, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.